All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out with your last second. It was interesting. Did everybody get to something that was interesting? It's hard to follow because weather was so good. I mean, I'm just one of the better talks I've heard in a while. And segues nicely, I got into. We had the session earlier with one of the presidents was talking about, her dream is an example of the power of education and what it can do. And financial literacy, we believe is a really huge part of that. We were just talking with the college presidents about the fact that students are unaware, they stay sticker shock, they see the price of college, it's taking $100,000, $50,000 a year, and it just looks insurmountable. And I'm here with Leroy Nesbitt, who is pretty much a guru in finding scholarships, among other ways of finding money to sell students for 40 years. He's in DC, and he's going to help with this section, and along with Tim Renzetta, who's has helped us a lot. He's with next gen personal finance. This is out in California, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about what they do, but they do provide free curriculum, professional development, and advocacy tools for more than 40,000 teachers to reach 75% of high school students in the U.S. So they are far and wide, and I'll let Tim talk more about it, but I know one of his true passions is to even legislatively have it, mandated where every school in the country has a financial literacy course, just on the basics of financial literacy itself, but then also we're interested in related to getting to college or whatever your next phase is in your career. So changing the landscape of paying for college, you are here. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to turn it over to Leroy first, and then I'll introduce I'll turn it over to Ben.
I just had a snack. So I probably need to stretch or stand up during this presentation in the second half before you prepare for dinner. Do so and be at home. So my name is Leroy Nesbitt. My children are out of college when I'm growing. And while they refer to me at CFES as a guru or some sort of expert, I can tell you that I know how hard it is to address this issue with young people. My youngest daughter is in graduate school, and she called to get some money last week. And I had to remind her that she was asking for money for living expenses, that she didn't complete 5 or 6 different scholarship applications last summer. And I had to remind her that she's thinking about going to a PhD program. I had to remind her that if she's even wanting to go to a PhD program, she cannot afford to go on this paper, because nobody can afford to go pay for a PhD program at any major urban university now, because technically the tuition is $180,000 for the tuition, and then you got to live in the city. Who's got that? What kind of 21 and 25-year-olds? So this isn't easy. So I want to begin by saying that I've come to the conclusion that as much information that I may have to offer young people, to offer people who work with young people, to help them figure out how to pay for college, the most important thing that I have to do is motivate. Because I have to motivate them to do the work. I have to get students and young people to believe they can find the money is out there, they can believe they can find it. Because I don't believe that I believe that a lot of students give up on it because they don't think it's going to happen. So I've got to give them hope. I've got to give them aspiration. I've got to give them nice energy. So I'm going to start by making sure that you all have that energy as you work with young people. You got to bring that energy, that positivity on this topic, because this is a tough topic and there are a lot of reasons to give up. But we know, all of us know, that for individually that are paying for college for us 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, wasn't easy then. It wasn't easy then. It's even harder now. So I want to begin by saying, be positive about this and understand that you want to work on the psychology of students. You want to work on their beliefs. You want to do a lot of the things that we talk about at CFES in terms of bringing energy, so that people have, the kids have the momentum and the spirit to do this work. Because they got to do it every day. They look for scholarships every day. You have to complete applications every day. And write essays every day if you want to get progress connection. So I want to open with that, and then I have 3 questions. We want to know who's in the room so we can table the discussion. But I know our presenter wants to know, if you are a student, raise your hand. All right. Right. If you are an educator, raise your hand. If you are somebody other than a student, raise your hand. Or an educator, raise your hand. Okay. We're ready. Shall we begin?
Sounds great. I actually did not see the show of hands. Leroy, if you could help me just roughly. How
Well,
many?
So we have just one or two students in the room. We have a goodly portion of the room, maybe 10 or 15 people are educators, mostly teachers. And then we have about 10 or 12 people who raise their hand when I call for the others. Not that they're other, they felt that.
Awesome. Thank you. My one question, just so I know how much background to go into, how many folks might be familiar with my organization, Next Gen Personal Finance? Maybe somebody can help me and just let me know how many hands are raised.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hands raised.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
We have a room of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 25, 30 people.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Leroy. And I appreciate Leroy's kind of setting the context here, because I do think the psychology behind this is absolutely so critical. I got my start volunteering to teach a group of 9th graders. And I just remember I would open our first, session on when we talked about paying for college. I would ask the students, like, what comes to mind when you hear, paying for college? And this was a school serving students who were hoping to be first in their family to go to college, primarily lower income. And there was this really real palpable fear that this is out of reach for me. And I think getting information to folks to help them, even just as simple as the difference between sticker price and net price, because the idea is to help people understand, to answer that question, how am I going to pay for college? And so what I would like to cover today, and this is going to be a session kind of short on me talking and long on you doing activities. My goal today is really that you're going to walk away with some resources to bring back to the classroom. And so we're going to kind of go through 5 distinct resources, which I think are also going to answer the question of, well, what's new when it comes to paying for college? So here's the agenda today. So again, I'm going to take you a little bit a round trip around our website to see some of the resources that we have. So we'll start with something called FinCap Friday, which is a quiz and a video, which is highlighting the changes that have come to FAFSA. Second thing we're going to do is an activity. You're going to see an activity about helping to find scholarships. Third is a data crunch talking about student debt. And the current situation that we're in, kind of some surprising data there. And then lastly, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of what happens in the spring when those financial aid award letters go out, because that obviously is a source of a lot of stress. And so just having the ability to understand kind of what all of those terms mean, as well as what the numbers mean. And then we'll close with a game. We created a game called Payback. We actually have a scholarship contest that's currently in process. And so I did want to make you aware of that. So that's kind of, we've got an ambitious agenda here to go through each of these resources. So first thing I wanted to do is just show you, this idea of teaching a person to fish, and really just kind of help you understand a little bit about how our website and where you can find paying for college resources. So very simply, our website is ngpf.org. And then if you go under curriculum and you go to the left, you'll see we have all of these units listed, including paying for college. And the great thing about these unit pages is it has all of the resources that we have. So if you're looking for a specific lesson, that's on the left-hand side. Paying for College 101, applying for the FAFSA, scholarships and grants. And these are all modularized. So to some extent, you can decide, you know what, today I only want to focus on pieces of this and not the entire unit. You can just pick those out. So we've got, semester course, which we've just recently updated. So the latest and greatest resources, we worked on that this summer. We have a 9-week course. And we have a full year course if you want to go into a lot of depth. And then on the right-hand side, we just have supplementary resources. So you'll see activities, no shortage of activities there. We've got case studies, just kind of another way to learn where we're giving them a scenario perhaps, and they're kind of providing advice back to somebody who's highlighted in the case study. We've got FinCap Fridays, which you'll get a flavor for shortly. Questions of the day, as well as those of you who want to incorporate math. So that's kind of everything in our Paying for College unit. Again, the way I got there is ngpf.org, curriculum, far left-hand side. Now you're going to have a chance to kind of explore on this page. So be sure you're kind of tracking how we get there. I'll go over it again also. Okay, so let's start with FinCap Friday. So this is every week we come out. Yaneli Espinal from our team, who's a New Yorker, grew up in Brooklyn, attended New York public schools, got a full ride to Brown and learned a lot about money in the process and really is committed to educating the next generation. She produces a video every Friday. We call it FinCap Friday. I'm going to go ahead and show you where you can find that. Again, is under curriculum, under resources, FinCap Friday. She's done 140, I believe, to date. And so these are current events. And we found a lot of teachers have created that ritual in the classroom of every Friday. There's a FinCap Friday to teach current events. So specifically in September of this year, when it became apparent that there's major changes coming to FAFSA, that was the topic. So before we dive into that, though, I'm going to ask you some questions before we watch the video where she provides the answers. So my first question to you is, when should students and families complete the FAFSA to apply for free financial aid for college? Go ahead, look at the responses, jot down your answer. I'll give you 30 seconds, and then I'll see if there's a consensus in the room as to what the answer is. When should students and families complete the FAFSA to apply for free financial aid? All right.
Okay. All right. Jim, we're going with A.
We're going with A. Thank you for getting the wisdom of crowds. The answer is A. Yes. All right. 1 for 1. Note that we also have a tech version which involves Kahoot. So we produce all of these in Kahoot also. Okay. Why is the FAFSA form changing? Which of the reasons explain why the FAFSA form is changing?
Good. Jim, we're going to go with C on that one.
All right. Answer is C. 2 for 2. All right. Let's go to number 3. What is one major change to expect in the FAFSA starting in the fall of 2023?
How many B's? All right, Jim, we're going with B. Little conflict there, but we got B.
Wait, which one did you take?
B like boy.
B as in boy. Answer is B. All right, let's keep the streak alive here. When does FAFSA officially open each year?
We're taking C, Jim.
You've got some ringers in the room here. All right, last question. What is one way to get extra free funding for college so you can borrow as little as possible when it comes to student loans?
D, Jim.
We like D. You got it. All right, let's go ahead and watch a video now. This is going to be Yaneli Espinal, FinCap Friday. I hope that, let me know if the sound does not come through.
If you're going back to school, before you submit your
Good.
essays,
Here we go.
Grammarly to quickly check for spelling, punctuation.
I'm Yaneli, also known as Miss Be Helpful, with another FinCap Friday brought to you by NGPF.
Did you know that there are major changes coming to the free application for federal student aid, also known as FAFSA? Students and families interested in getting financial aid for higher education or college should complete the FAFSA before the year they expect to receive financial aid. And they should repeat this each year that they expect to continue receiving financial aid. Due to a package passed by Congress in December of 2021, there will be a few major changes and improvements to the FAFSA that will be taking effect very soon. 3 major changes you need to know about are: 1, the form will go from 108 questions down to about 36. And that will definitely make it easier to complete as well as less time consuming. 2, more students will be eligible for Pell Grants, which provides free grant funding to undergraduate students with exceptional financial need. Finally, the Student Aid Index, or SAI, will completely replace the EFC, which stands for Expected Family Contribution. This change will make it easier for students to qualify for financial aid and make it easy for colleges to identify the students and families who really need aid the most. It's really important to keep on top of all FAFSA changes, especially each time that we're heading into a new award year. And it's also really important to complete the FAFSA on or soon after October 1st, because that's when the application becomes available each year. And the longer you wait, the less likely you are to receive institutional aid from colleges and universities. Before you borrow any student loans for college, it's very important that you do everything you can to secure that bag of financial aid. And that includes applying for scholarships as well as any other grant awards that you can find. It's really important that you spend some time each week while you're in high school, searching for and applying to as many scholarships and grants as you can qualify for. And if you're not sure whether you qualify or not, apply anyway, because the best case scenario is that you'll get some free money to help you pay for college. And that means less student loan debt, or maybe even no student loan debt for you. From now through November 16, 2022, you can enter NGPF's Payback Challenge for a chance to win up to $2,500 in scholarship funding. To get more details about this scholarship contest, visit ngpf.org/payback challenge.
Hi, dropshippers. It's time to focus on.
All right. So that is FinCap Friday. So again, I think in terms of implementation in the classroom, we see some teachers who provide the video first, then ask the questions. Others like to lead with the questions, which obviously students are primarily guessing about, and then finish with the video. So kind of up to, I don't know if anybody in the room who's familiar with NGPF uses FinCap Fridays, but if they would like to share with the group, feel free to go ahead and do that.
We have a hand that was raised.
Hi, Tim. I'm Sue here from Plattsburgh, New York.
Yes, hello.
I'm a huge fan. I thought we were going to be here live in person, but I guess this will do. I use FinCap Fridays every Friday. We do it. I do it. Have them guess first and then play the video. But while I have my big mouth laughing, everybody should get involved with NGPF. Their resources are unbelievable and the support is unbelievable, and it is truly all free. So Tim and the team at NGPF do an amazing job, and I am eternally grateful. Not a plant either.
Wow, that was nice. I think I can stop now and let you run the presentation. Thank you so much. That was very, very kind of you.
Throughout, I have taken probably 200 plus professional development hours from NGPF, a couple 6 or 7 cert courses. So if you all have any questions about it, I'm that penguin jersey wearing person to find me. Okay, sorry.
No, that was great. Thank you.
Did you get that on tape, Tim?
So the way FinCap Friday works is you have the quiz questions, you have the video, and then if you want to keep the conversation going, we provide you both discussion prompts as well as the sources where the information came from that Yaneli provided in that. So again, you can take this, you can make this a 10-minute activity, and I know other folks kind of push it even to a full class, 45-minute period. We kind of give you the flexibility in order to do that. Okay, let's take a look at an activity. So this one is specifically finding scholarships and grants. So does everybody have a device with them? That could be a phone, it could be ideally a laptop, because that'll make it easier. Because what I would like you to do now, and I'll just kind of walk you through this. What I would like you to do is actually just take a look at this activity. So one of the things about our curriculum you should know is everything is customizable. So we do everything in Google Docs. So you have the ability to file, make a copy, and then just go ahead and change, add questions, drop questions. You have that flexibility built in. I think that's what teachers enjoy. So if I go to paying for let me just kind of take you through, those of you who are on your devices now, if you want to follow along. I'm going to start with going to our home page. And this will be helpful too, because we're going to be doing, let me just go to our home page. Eventually I will get there. Here we go. ngpf.org. Go under curriculum. Go to paying for college. So again, that's ngpf.org, curriculum, paying for college. And then once I'm there, you're going to have to, under activities, we've got a lot of them. You're going to click on view more. And then you're going to scroll down. I'm glad you can see also the SP means we have also translated this into Spanish. So if you have students that can work for, many of our activities, any activity you see in SP at the end means it's been translated into Spanish. So what I'd like you to do is just take 5 minutes. I'll take a look at the clock here and just take a look at this activity and start to think about how you might use this with your students. So again, that was ngpf.org, paying for college unit, the right-hand side, finding scholarships and grants. Maybe if you don't have a laptop and you want to look over your neighbor's shoulder, go ahead and do that. But let me give you 5 minutes just to view that Google Doc and maybe think about ideas on how you might customize something like this, or where you might plug in an activity like this with your students. So let me stop there. If anybody's having trouble getting here, let me know. Otherwise, we'll get back together in about 5 minutes. I'm interested in your thoughts in going through this activity. All right, let's take one more minute, and then anybody who would like to share, I'll come back in a minute, and then would love any impressions folks have. Maybe you've used this you've used this activity or a similar one, just ideas that you have about how you might use with your students. All right, anybody like to share what they noticed in this or ideas on how they might use with their students? Any tips? I'll open the floor up.
You know, I was this in my class. I don't know the big person, but, I found the first part and the early different criteria. I always tell my kids that you don't know, there's all kinds of crazy scholarships out there. So having them identify specific things, help them broaden what they were thinking about possibly for a search criteria. So it's a little bit eye-opening for them, and it gives them a nice starting place.
Love that. Because there are some fascinating scholarships out there. Does anybody have a favorite scholarship site that they use? Because again, we provide a list at the bottom. You know, quite a few different grants and scholarships, but I wondered if folks have experience with one where they're like, this is my go-to when it comes to looking for scholarships.
Yeah, Tim, actually, I have one which I'm gonna show, which is called JVL scholarships. I'm gonna show to them later.
Okay.
JLB College Telephone is the name of the website. But I'll show it to you later, but there's a paper that I encourage you to add to the list. Maybe you'll see when I do my presentation.
Awesome. All right.
I'll share what I like. What I like about this is the fact that it gets scholarship application done in the classroom and during class time, in addition to having them go out and do it on their own. Because a lot of times the big hurdle for getting these scholarships in is the repetitive nature of their own free time that they have to use, that they just rather choose to do something else. Even though we know that the responsible thing for them to do is to be getting that money, that they're choosing, so actually putting it into a class framework that we're using the time productively, but it's also a financial benefit to them. This is a great resource for that.
No, a really important point. If you leave it to them outside of the class, I love the way you framed that. You're in a competitive battle with their free time. I think sometimes framing it too, just as like, hey, you know what, that application might take an hour, but there's $1,000 of it. Like, what other jobs do you know where you can make $1,000 an hour? But putting that extra time in, you know, and again, you're not going to apply once and get that scholarship. You have to kind of take a diversified approach and apply to as many as possible. But when you frame it, I think as like, this is the potential value that you could create for the time that you're going to put in. That can be something to capture their attention. All right, let's go to resource number 3. Well, here were some other tips that we heard from educators. We've run this session before. They talk about adding local scholarships to the bottom of the worksheet, putting the list of scholarships into a spreadsheet, letting them continue after the assignment is over. Don't require students to apply, but make sure you give them the time and resources to do so. And then lastly, you might want to use, you might want to use a couple of class periods. Yeah, I think there was a group, actually, I worked with an AVID group in Mountain View, California. I think they literally spent 2 weeks on scholarships, you know, both having students identify them, but then also supporting their work. They also had volunteers in the classroom to assist students as they went through this process, because it can be time consuming. All right, we're going to talk about data crunches here. And now we're going to shift to talk about, this is going to be a student loan related question. So who do you think struggles most with student debt? When I say struggles, I'm using defaults as an indication of struggles. A default means you haven't made payments on your student loan. I think for 6 months is when you're technically, it's either 90 days or it's either 3 months or 6 months that you're in default. So which group do you think struggles most with student debt? All right, what's the consensus of the group?
Hold on. 5, 4. We're gonna go with 5, Jim.
You're going to go with 5. Well, this is the one that shocks the most people because the answer is less than 5,000. So what is going on here is, and this is, you know, 1/3 of folks with less than $5,000 in student debt, student loans are defaulting. That's the share of borrowers who default within the first 3 years. So what's going on here? You know, we often don't talk about a college dropout problem, but when you consider only about, I don't know, depending on what year you're looking at, 50 to 60% graduate over a 6-year period. Well, what happens to the folks who don't make it through? Well, unfortunately, they're left with student debt and they're not seeing an increase in their earnings potential because employers don't give you credit for some college. They want to either see you completed a 2-year degree or you completed a 4-year degree. So as it turns out, the people who struggle the most are those with the lowest student debt because they lasted a year, maybe 2, and they took on this debt and they may have had a very negative experience also and feel like, you know what, I don't feel like I got any value, so I'm not going to repay my debt. But this gets at the question of being sure that students are motivated and ready for college. Because I think too often, and we see it in the numbers, that students struggle, they've taken on this debt and they don't have the ability to repay it. So another thing I want to highlight, this was an article from the New York Times in September, just a couple months back. And, we always talk about student debt, but what's taken on growing prominence is parent debt, specifically parent plus loans. And what you find, unfortunately, is that colleges will often use these parent plus loans as the plug figure. What do I mean by that? Those financial aid award letters where every number balances out, where we look at, okay, here are the, here's the, in effect, the income, here are the expenses, and the numbers have to match. Well, what they do is they put an undue burden on parents by, I've seen, actually somebody sent me one maybe 4 months ago that had a Parent Plus loan of $15,000 per semester. And that's how the numbers balanced out. And so when you look at these loans, about 3.6 million borrowers have over $107 billion in debt. The interest rates are currently 7.54%, and you got to pay over 4% in an origination fee. So I think this is one you got to be really careful about, because parents have their kids' best interests at heart. And we all know you can get that attachment, right, to your dream school. And the only way you can do it, the only path they give you is through these Parent Plus loans. So there's, remarkable data out there about the number of families where the expected family contribution was zero. So in other words, lower income. So there wasn't an expectation that they were going to have the funding available to pay for their child to go to college, and yet they saddle them with these plus loans. A really high percentage. I forget the exact numbers, but this article from the Times, which I've given you the title there, if you just Google that, you'll find more detail. But it's something we have to be careful about, because it's very easy for a parent to say, okay, if this is the only way my child can get to college. And the problem is they're sacrificing, right, their retirement, because these loans carry high interest rates and they usually have extremely high balances too. So here are 3 resources, and I've given you the bit.ly links. So if you want to go to them directly, choose one of these 3. I'm just going to give you about 3 minutes. So the way you would access it is you go bit.ly/college118 if you want to look at how much would your college actually cost. So that's an interactive exercise. If you want to compare and understand different types of student loans, that's the second resource. And then the third is repayment options. And boy, is that a complex process. And I think some may say, well, why are we even talking about repayment before a student's taken on loans? You would be surprised at the number of students who don't, because they've never taken a loan out before, don't necessarily understand the mechanics of, oh, I have to repay it, and when do I have to start repaying it? And so going through that exercise can be helpful. So let me give you 3 minutes. Again, the way you're going to access these resources is with the bit.ly link. You have to put the period between the bit and the ly. Just put it in just like that. I really like the first one because, again, what I said starting out, there's never been more information at people's fingertips. Problem is, we don't teach them how to find it. So that is resource number 1. So I'll start the clock. We'll go to about 44 after the hour.
Hey, Tim, just for time purposes, you got about 20 minutes left maybe, and then Leroy had a presentation as well. And then we can kick back to you for a few minutes at the end. Is that okay?
Yeah. So you want me to, so we got 19 minutes left. And then you sure that's going to give Leroy enough time?
Good. Yes, he said yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That work?
Yep, that works.
Okay. Thanks.
So again, you're just taking 3 minutes, choose one of those 3 resources. All right, so hopefully, again, you found one of those resources, you bookmarked it, and you'll be able to refer back to it. But if anybody wants to share what they noticed, maybe one of the resources that they're excited about, or what a teacher can expect if they use it with their students, feel free to take the mic. All right, anybody want to jump in?
I'll just say really quickly, I think that looking at net price of college is a really important skill that we need to teach parents. If you look at the University of Wyoming, it says it's gonna cost you $8,500 a semester to go to school. But there's money from state programs, and from the university program, and my kids want to pay $548 for college. So it wasn't $8,500, it's $500. So just having parents understand that and what's available, and he would do it, be a pretty good student, I did that. He lives in my dad. It's true, that just surprised me a little.
That being said, I'm a college admissions counselor, here, but that's something that we talk a lot about our students doing. If this is our standard price, then this is on average what students are paying. So they don't standardize $46,000 a year is a lot. But when you say most of our students are paying between 10 and 18,000, and that is to live on campus, that's a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, there's also a data source today, and it's College Scorecard. It's put out by the Federal Department of Education. You can actually get data by major, by school. So if I'm going to study business at Binghamton, you can get data about what is the first year salary for somebody who studies business and graduates from Binghamton, as well as 10 years out, what's kind of their mid-career salary. So we get closer to this idea of like, what's my return on investment, which I recognize is, there's higher aspirations when we think about higher ed, but at the same time, it's one of the single largest investments people are going to make, families are going to make. In addition to 4 years of time, there's the 4 years of room and board. And so starting to think about it in terms of, okay, if I'm going to choose a major that has a lower income potential, and that's okay, right? If that's the path you want to take from a career perspective, but just being aware that, okay, so then I probably need to be careful about the amount of student debt that I take on. So again, that data is available on College Scorecard, which is put out by the Department of Education. All right, fine. You know what? I am going to skip this one. I'll just let you know that we have it. So particularly in the springtime, where the rubber meets the road is when those financial aid award letters come out in February, March, April, where you've got to decipher. They don't make it easy. Now, there's been attempts to try and standardize what's in those letters, but colleges don't seem to want to play along. And so as a result, there's a lot of terminology on that page. You got to kind of figure out, it's all lumped together as financial aid, but included in that is student loans. And so we can think of aid as, oh, that must be everything that's free, but they also bunch in these loans. And so it really takes a fine-tooth comb to go through to be able to compare one financial aid award letter to another. So the good news is we've created an activity around it, and it's called Fine Print Financial Aid Package. So I've included the bit.ly link there if you want to go ahead and bookmark it. I think it's one of the most important activities because ultimately it's decisions are going to get made, and people often, the amount, I can do a pretty good job of predicting how much student debt someone's going to have based on what the situation is in their first year of college, right? And so really making, using the financial aid award letters as an opportunity, because I think that's one of the ways we go wrong is we don't project out 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. Instead, we're trained to kind of, okay, if we can just make it through freshman year, if we can just make it through sophomore year, if we can just make it through junior year, and you kind of attack that issue as you go, and then suddenly you find, and I know this because I used to get calls from parents about how did I end up in this hole where I have $80,000 in student debt, and I think it's the lack of willingness to kind of do that planning exercise up front. So this is an activity called the Fine Print Financial Aid Package. Okay. So last thing, we got to close with a game here. We got to have some fun here. So we have a game called Payback. And the way you are going to get there, let me get to it. So let me show you how to get there. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to play. So we'll go till about 55 after the hour. Here's how you're going to get there. I'm going to go to ngpf.org. I'm going to go under curriculum to, remember, we're talking about the paying for college unit. Actually, there's a simpler way to get there. Click on arcade. See that button there at the top, arcade, because that uncovers 10 games that we currently have. So go ahead and find Payback. I'll give you 5 minutes to play the game. So you're not going to make it through because it's about a 20-minute game, but you'll get a sense for kind of how the approach it takes to really help students learn how to get to and through college. The other way we could play this is I could play it on my screen here and take input from the audience. So anybody have a preference playing Payback on your own? And the way you get there is, again, clicking on the arcade on our website. Excuse me. So you can play individually, or I can play a group game from the screen. What would folks like to do?
Great, okay. We're gonna let you get group game. We're gonna shout our answers out.
All right. Here we go. Get your payback. All right, give me a GPA.
3.25.
3.3 to 3.6. Extracurriculars, I rounded up. All right, home state. New York. Let's do New York. Okay, so we're going to apply to college. We got 4 choices. We can go to New York skyscrapers. We can go to out-of-state public, private school, or community college. Where do you want to go?
Private college.
Private school. We're going to go to the Knights. Here we go. You're a Knight. Private school isn't cheap, and for lower prestige schools like this one, you might not be getting much bang for your buck. All right. So you'll see at the bottom here, there are 3. You'll see at the bottom here, there are 3 bars we're going to focus. Every time you make a decision, you're going to see these bars move. There's focus, connections, happiness. Okay, so we start with, it's graduation parties. Your friend asks you to cover their catering gig. You want to make $100 by taking the gig, or you want to go to the parties?
Slight edge of the party, I think.
This is a party going crowd. Let's hit the parties. Okay, I saw happiness go up. You enjoyed your weekend, but know what future you would enjoy? That money you didn't make. Okay, happiness went up though, so that's a positive. All right, you got to get a new laptop. Which one are you going to get? Cheap as it gets, only the best, or nothing fancy? Nothing fancy? Yeah. All right. Student debt went up $750. You picked a solid machine that'll get the job done. How does it feel to be such a mature, practical person? All right, it's almost time for freshman year. You're going to sign up for a dorm room. Do you want to stay in a quad? You're going to save $750. Do you want to have a roommate, or do you want a single, which is going to cost you $750 more? Okay, we all love roommates. All right, connections went up. Your roommate may be great, or they may be horrible. Either way, you'll remember them forever. All right. You got to eat. We got to pick a meal plan. You want to eat like a bird? You want to be, you're extra hungry, or you want the standard?
Good standard.
You'll have plenty to eat with this meal plan. Remember, it doesn't cover smoothies, coffee, or late night pizza. You got to get stuff for your room. Okay, so this is one. If you do this with your students, you have to set a time limit here because they won't stop. Okay, so I am going to just to short circuit this process here. I'm going to ask you to pick 3 things. I think you can tell based on the picture what they are. Okay, what do people want? I'm not hearing, I'm hearing muffled noise. You want this, the caddy. Let's get some pens. School supplies. Okay, one other thing. What do you want? What do you need for your room?
Video games.
Video games. Yes, let's be realistic here. Here we go. Game system. Okay, so we're going to check out. That's what we got. All right. Freshman year. If you never go off campus, you might lose your mind. How are you going to get around? Bring in a car, take the bus, or bike it? Bike it.
Yes.
All right. It's good for you, good for the environment, but you'll need to budget money for cabs too, since you can't bike everywhere. All right, I'm looking at the time here. It is 11:55, so we're going to stop. Especially upstate New York, you don't want to be riding a bike in January, right? Okay, last question for you. You got to buy textbooks. They're not cheap. You're going to rent them, buy used, or buy new. Rent books? All right. Let's see. Renting is the cheapest route, but not always the easiest. You can't make notes in the book. And if you lose it, you got to pay for a new one. Okay, so that is our game Payback. So I want to make sure, again, you are aware that we have a scholarship contest and there's only 9 days left. So it's called the Payback Challenge. We're going to give out $72,000 in scholarships, 2 national winners at $2,500 apiece, and then a whole bunch of honorable mentions at $1,000. It's a pretty simple contest. You play that game, Payback, which you just saw. It's going to take about 20 minutes. Have students complete a written response to a writing prompt or a video, and then you select the best one from your class. Submit it to us by November 16th, and I think we'll announce winners early January. The way you get more details about this is you just go to ngpf.org /payback challenge, or let's see if our fancy schmancy payback search bar, Payback Challenge. Payback Challenge is open. We don't want the 2021 one. Let's see if we've got an updated one. Yep, here it is. So you can just search for it on our website too, Payback Challenge. So got about 3 minutes. I want to give you a little bit of a chance before I turn it over to Leroy. Any last minute questions? Let me just mention one other thing. For those of you who are new to NGPF, everything, this was mentioned earlier, everything we do is free. So it's no cost. Our curriculum, our professional development, which we deliver in 3 different ways during the week. We do 5 live events. We call them virtual PDs. We have on demand, over 40, I think we have 48 modules. You do those at your own pace, at your own convenience. And then we have certification courses, which for 2 hours a week over 5 weeks, you earn a certification. If you earn 6 certifications with NGPF, you become a distinguished educator. And so I think we've given out is if there's any, I have a hunch that Sue is a distinguished educator. Once you, again, complete 6 certification courses, that's what you earn. So that is all of our professional development that we offer. And then we actually track your hours. And so as you earn hours, you earn swag from us. And that's our program called NGPF Academy. So again, all of our curriculum, all of our professional development at no cost. I know you're personal finance teachers, so you're probably skeptical. How do we do it? We have an endowment that I helped form. So that funds our operation. So we don't rely on external funding at all. And we don't have to charge for what we do, because our organization, our mission, we call it Mission 2030. Every high school student by the year 2030 will take a 1-semester personal finance course before they graduate. So it seems like when we started, about 1 in 10 students had that guarantee. Today, we're happy to say 4 out of 10 do. And so we are working hard, lobbying state legislatures to get laws passed so that students get this course. Because we know the only way as a society we can reach all kids is through public schools. And so that's kind of our mission. That's what we're about. And I need to turn it over to Leroy because my time is up. Feel free if you want to reach out to me, you have any questions, tim@ngpf.org is best way to reach me.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, Leroy is gonna take over from here, and that was great, we really appreciate it. And we'll have-
So hold on, we're gonna.
Oh, hold on.
He's part of our presentation, just didn't know.
Okay,
All right, so
you're part of the presentation.
a couple of things, getting back to the motivation, I think, again, using this as a tool, and then putting with it little things that you present with the tool to bring in the motivational thing, such as gamifying it the way it does. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things that I like to talk about. And then I'm going to ask you to help me and John do something. Let's see, I guess we're talking about for too long. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. First, we received an email from KPMG about this particular scholarship. And they called Rick and they said, we want a CFES student to win this. So I'm going to give, this is one for you to go back and figure out who you can get an applicant for. KPMG Women's Leadership. The money is coming from a women's golf tournament that they do, professional golf tournament. They take some of that, the money that they make off the golf tournament, and they put into this leadership program that has a major scholarship with other components. So, and again, and I'm showing you this first, because when you work with young people, you do scholarship assessments, sometimes it's really important to show them one scholarship that they can both begin to focus in on. So I will use a scholarship like this, or I will use one of the ones that they're what I call easy scholarships. It's like sweepstakes. You go in, you fill out the form, and it takes 15 seconds, and you go into a sweepstakes. And if you get the drawing, you win the scholarship. Now the chances of winning is clear. That's a lot of it. The fact that the chances of 1 in a billion have to stop some of you from buying that 2 opportunity from a lot. Because you got to play to win, right? You got to be in the game. So I want to start by just showing you this one right off the bat. But let me click over to a couple of other things. This is a must. This one is a must. National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. This is a map of state financial aid programs. If you are working with young people, you must get them to visit the state financial aid agency in their jurisdiction. So see this map here. So go to this map. And let's click on New York. Let's click on Wyoming. It will take you to the Wyoming page that has funding opportunities. So in this case, in Wyoming, this is the name of the organization. Now, many of these organizations are quasi-governmental organizations. They're publicly funded, but the organization is kind of its own separate agency. So let me click on another one that I like. My favorite one is of course. My favorite one is New York State. This is the Higher Education Services Corporation. What students want to go to, why you want to send them here is every state financial aid program will be listed on this site, including scholarship or financial aid awards for this. Now, the problem with I've dealt with this before. The problem with New York State is the link takes you here. This is not a good place to start because they want you to start by looking at FAFSA. But once you get into it, you can click down and it will list all of the financial aid programs. But you must get students to check within their state to make sure that they're not missing. Those of you from New York State, you all know about TAP, all of that. All of that information is here. So every student ought to have this on their phone for their state. All right, so, and we're gonna go back over this, then finally, we're gonna have some fun. So, this is my favorite scholarship site, I'm gonna walk you through around this point. This is JLV College Counselor, and don't think I'm so smart, I found it took me years to find it, it's down. What I tell young people on, there's a whole bunch of scholarship search sites. I don't care which one you use, but you need to find one, you have to play with it. The issue here is finding a scholarship site that students like to use and feel comfortable using. Meaning that it's eye-pleasing, it's easy to navigate. So let me show you how I do the tutorial I do. And I'm gonna do this in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and I want you to see it. So I go to the website, I go to the page called All Scholarships. What I do is, and I present this at CIS every year as well. What month is this? This is. I click on the scholarships for December. And what you will see is a list of scholarships. Now, what's really good about this one is it's accurate. One of the problems we have is that we give students information on scholarships or links and stuff, and it ain't no good. Once we start passing out bad information, the students lose hope. They step back. So you gotta be careful. So while I am one of those people that does what Tim says, I tell kids, it can't hurt for you to apply because you never know if you're gonna win. I've learned to back off that because I have students will come to you and they'll apply for scholarships and then they won't get it and they'll tell you about it. And if they're telling you this, I don't think I'm gonna encourage you. Because you told them to apply for this thing you get it. I have a kid that I worked with for 3 years in DC. And I worked his mind and I got him, I started working with him in 10th grade to apply for scholarships. So that by the time he was in 12th grade, his mind was right. His mind was right. He applied for over 80 scholarships. And a number of them didn't get back. So he started to get a little frustrated, but I have to kick him to say, keep at it, keep at it. Now he did end up getting $85,000 in financial aid, in scholarship, $65,000 in grant money. We're not having to pay back, it's very low. But he worked really hard, but it was very difficult to get him to that level. And it took a lot of relationship building and a lot of conversations with the problem. So, but on this site, when you go to this scholarship, you can actually click on the scholarship right from there. And that's one of the joys of this one, because it will take you to the actual scholarship where students can see what the scholarship is and apply for it because they're on the page. And again, I like this one because the information tends to be very reliable. So what I tell kids is that I want you to do 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 15 minutes a day look at the scholarships, but every day. I try to get them to say, there's time in between classes, you're doing nothing. On your phone, with your scholarship. When you're in the back of the car riding somewhere, they're doing a little bit of social media, texting your friends, on your phone, because that repetitive activity will build your skill to do it. Now, I'll talk to 50 kids in the presentation. I have my own little scholarship club once a month. I go online with kids to motivate them. Got 50 kids out there. I would have about 4 kids to tell them to go 50 minutes. And we've been meeting once a month online for 5 months. And I haven't gotten it, but I'm still gonna hammer that every day to just keep at it. All right, so this is JLV, and I'm gonna back up and show you just one, you saw that one, but at the bottom of this green page, there are pages, there are 13 pages of scholarship. And so what I tell students is, you should be looking at the December and January list in October. And from that, you make a list and then you apply to it. And I have a testimonial. You use it now too, right? He learned it last year, and it can work. But again, it's one site. One site's not gonna work for every kid. The point is to get them to these websites where they get for the scholarship to listen and get them engaged and looking at hunting and working. This is work. We have to find ways. Now, I'll give it, I'm going to the guns. With my scholarship club kids, to get them motivated, I pay them. What I do is I say, I'll pay you $5 to $10 during the application. So at the end of the year, you prove to me that you did 80 applications, I'm gonna give you an $800 scholarship. So that there's a reward just for participating. Now, the problem is, I got 50 kids. And these students 80, I'm not gonna be able to pay them, I can't raise that money. Where's the?
the US Solar Company.
I found money for that, but if you can, that's one of the things you might do. So I'm gonna close that. I know I was quick and brief, but I need to, because I need your help there. We want to build a scholarship resource page on CMPS. We're gonna do this quickly, ask some questions to ask. I'll tell you what's gonna, we're gonna put on, but I don't want to put a bunch of stuff in nobody uses. I need people. I'm gonna put the website for the state agencies on the click button. And we're going to tweet or post every day a different scholarship. You know we're gonna do that. What other tools are we put on the CFDS website that will be helpful to you and your students? And John and I have been going back about this for a while, trying to figure it out. Because we just don't want to put stuff out there. There's lots of people put out there. We want to put stuff that people feel like will be helpful. What would you like CFDS information to come from CFDS? About scholarships would be helpful for you to help students or for the students.
I think we have to have some educational material in there, that they should never have to pay for a scholarship search, because those don't pay out.
Say it again.
So that you should never have to pay a subscription, a membership to have someone searching for
Say
scholarships.
it again.
Do not pay to have someone search for scholarships for you, it should all be free.
Yeah, with the internet nowadays, all that should be absolutely shouldn't pay for anything. What are the things? Yes.
Thought or figure out if a scholarship is legitimate or not. Decided I'm not paying for it, how else can they identify that it's not legitimate?
That's tough. That's why I use this JPL, because it's proven to be very reliable. But you're right, the legitimacy of the scholarships and a sense of whether I'm really going to win this thing or not. So one of the problems is that the best odds of you winning scholarships are the ones with essays. Because people want to write essays. There are 5 local scholarships in DC. One named after the famous Gwen Iker. When she died, she left an endowment of $250,000 scholarships. I work with an organization, we were giving away $5,000 scholarships from this endowment in the very first year this last year. We only got 12 applications. And we sent them 1,000 emails. So that's another aspect of this credibility. Just because people get an email about a scholarship doesn't mean that they think it's real or something that they're going to apply. Any other suggestions? Yes.
I know at my school, it's not even the students that have questions, it's their parents. So I know that like, for me, what would be helpful is if I could like direct my parents like in a FAQ page where there's like, questions that, have been commonly asked and then like answers to that. Like I know for my population, we are like really rural, like upstate New York. I live, like, there's a pasture across the road from my school. I think we're super rural. So I know that like there's just not, I don't know, like there's just not a lot.
Two things today. The New York State site,
Yep.
question and answer, next gen. Dig into next gen, and you will see tons of resources like that. But I think what you're telling me is, the idea of the page is to have boxes you click on those copies. So what you're saying, we the parent.
Yes, yeah.
If you'd be able to create like almost like a real-time live matrix, of like these scholarships are still available for you to apply for. And like the day it's gone, it disappears, but you still have almost a live matrix where students can click on and see what's still available.
It may be motivating, when they, oh shoot, I got a timeline, I got a deadline here, and you can see that's available to me. And then you know it's legit because you're.
Let me ask a follow-up question. So we do have I have a list of 900 scholarships that CFES students over the years have found. The reason I'm not giving it to you is I gotta double check it, because some of the scholarships on it from 2 years ago may not be any good. So we're in the process of going back through it. But I don't think the spreadsheet's gonna do what you need, because then kids gotta go in and navigate the spreadsheet to get the deadlines and all that. You want something where it pops up for them.
The matrix on the website, this other spreadsheet.
Now, the other question is,
Betting 9,000 scholarships.
Yeah.
Today, it's who the hell can do that?
okay, the other thing I want to get you all's response to, in response to your request is, if we're posting one every day, why doesn't that speak to that process that you're talking about? So the scholarships that I will post, I'll post a scholarship tomorrow and it will have a December date. I'll post a scholarship in December, it will have a January due date. So but the question is, are they gonna go into our Facebook or Instagram account and look at it? And I think you're telling me no.
Yeah. I
What
think-
do you want to do? Is just posting one every day that is appropriately spaced out, is that enough? Gotcha. We're at 5:15, so I want to conclude with Tim. Tim, are you with us? Tim, can you speak? Are you still, can you speak? Do we hear you?
Yes.
Okay, Tim, do you have any comments or things that I said?
No, I mean, I love your approach. The idea, boy, how great would it be if you get a foundation to write a big check to provide kids with the incentives to complete scholarships, but I think breaking it down into pieces, small pieces, right? Like, let's celebrate the wins. And I always feel like in situations like this, we have to control what we can control, and what the young people can control is the process. So here's the process I go to research, here's the process I go to apply. To some extent, the outcomes are a little more difficult to manage, but getting kids to understand you can control the process of applying for these scholarships. And then, yeah, celebrating those small wins as they start. Maybe there's a board up in front of the class where you're actually counting, not dollars gained from scholarships, but applications, because they can control that process. And I love the stories that you tell, and I love the commitment you have to help students reduce their financial need through scholarships, as well as the resources you shared.
We're just over time, but Tim, we really want to thank you. Really appreciate you working.
Now,